Is it? Welcome, everyone, to the Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026, regular meeting of the Troutdale City Council. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask Councillor Laney to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Sarah, please call the roll.
Councillor Andrews?
Here.
Allen? Here. Councillor Warren?
Present.
Councillor White?
Here.
Councillor Davidson?
I'm here.
Councillor Leamy? Here. Mayor Redmond?
Here. All right. Mike, is there an agenda update?
Yes, there is. At your station today, you'll see the printed out version, and we've sent out revisions late last week. There's an addition, a resolution to extend the Public Safety Working Group because it expires on June 30th. And then we had a slight modification to one of the IGAs. It was Resolution A under the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission dissolution. Section 4.2B of that had a slight modification. The one that was originally sent out and the one we have received. Those were the only two modifications and updates, and they're in your revised agenda packet that was on your station.
Thank you. We'll move on to public comment. Public comment on non-agenda and consent agenda item is welcome at this time. Public comment on agenda items will be taken at the time the item is considered. Public comment should be directed to the presiding officer and limited to matters of community interest or related to matters of which may or could come before council. Each speaker shall be limited to 5 minutes for each agenda item, unless a different amount of time is allowed by the presiding officer with the consent of the council. The council and mayor should avoid immediate or protracted responses to citizen comments. So I will open public comment. Let's start with anyone on Zoom who wishes to address the council during public comment.
Mayor Redmond, Paul Wilcox, Troutdale.
Yes, Paul, please.
Thanks, Mayor. This is related to 3.2 on the consent agenda, the extension of the PSWAG term. Some background, Rich Allen was appointed to PSWAG as a member of the Budget Committee. And when he was no longer on the Budget Committee, the staff and council last year essentially created an at-large position to keep him on the PSWAG. Now this year, Twyla Harrington was on the PSWAG coming from PSAC, PSEAC. She didn't renew for PSEAC, so, and I don't know if she's interested in remaining on PSWAG. So I just wanted to suggest or ask how you plan to handle that. If anyone's asked Twyla if she wants to continue on PSWAG or pick somebody else for PSEAC or just leave it blank, leave it empty, vacant, whatever. I think that's all I have on that one.
All right, thank you, Paul. And by the way, at least as far as I could tell, you're the one that reminded us that it expires at the end of June. Thank you. You're very attentive to details like that, as well as these other things you brought up. So I'll certainly check with Twyla and see if she wants to continue. All right, we're still in public comment. Is there anyone here in the room that wishes to address the council? I see the gentleman over here. Each of you just please state your name and the city where you live.
Good evening, Mayor Ripma and councilors. It's an honor to be here. My name is Nathan Vasquez. I'm the district attorney for Multnomah County. I live in the city of Portland. I'm here because I've worked in the district attorney's office for 26 years now. Most of that time has been spent in East County. And I've had the honor and privilege of handling some of our most sensitive matters. I handled a homicide just about a block away from here, maybe 2 blocks. So it has been my career to be dedicated to the families and the victims in cases. And I can tell you without reservation that during that time, I have seen the changes that have occurred in Troutdale when it comes to law enforcement. I've seen back when there was a police department here to when that shifted to the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. And I can tell you without reservation that this community benefited greatly from my perspective and what I've seen and what I've worked through. The changes were, for me, very evident, and I saw a change in service level. I saw a situation where the day in, day out service that the community here received was much improved. And I can tell you also that now as the elected DA, what I see is departments regularly have a hard time, a very hard time, hiring and building up their workforce. I am here to say that without reservation, I believe a change from the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office would be very detrimental to this community. And I am here to encourage you to continue your contract with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. I dedicate resources to the Sheriff's Office. I have a deputy DA who comes out to this very facility and meets with sheriff's offices to help with matters on patrol all the way up to major investigations, as well as I have a homicide team that responds out to murder cases. Now, it's not that those services would completely go away, but I can tell you they would be greatly reduced because that resource is attached to the sheriff's office. It is my belief, not just as an elected official, but as a practitioner, someone who has had the day in, day out struggle, and I'll be on call for murder cases this very weekend, that I come to you and just urge you to stay with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. It is a situation where, having seen this from a very firsthand basis, dealing with families, dealing with investigations, sitting in through those processes, it is that I am here to tell you that it is, without question, my belief that you should stay with the Sheriff's Office. I also would offer that I would meet with any one of you individually to go through with you, point by point, my concerns of why I believe this is true, and I'd be happy to explain that and go through both my personal experiences on cases, but also from an organizational standpoint. So thank you for the time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all.
Well, thank you, Mr. Vasquez, and really appreciate your work for the county and your thoughts. Who else? Please.
Hello, I'm Julie Omelchuk, and I am the president of the board of Metro East Community Media, physically located in Gresham, but serving the city of Troutdale, Fairview, Wood Village, and Multnomah County. I won't take much of your time tonight, and I have a few comments on the consent agenda items 3.1. I want to...
Public comment is for non-agenda items or...
Oh, I thought it was for consent agenda items as well. I apologize.
Well, you know, I tell you what, you're right. We do say it that way. I think Paul was responsible for us making that change, as I recall. Quite fair, yes.
Mayor, would you like me to continue?
Please proceed.
Thank you.
Stand correct.
Well, I want to thank you, Mayor, and the council for your support during the transition from the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission. We also owe congratulations to Norm Thomas, your long-time serving MHCRC representative, for finishing his term after nearly 30 years. So congratulations to Norm. But I especially wanted to highlight your city manager's contribution to this process. Mike was dropped into the middle of this transition when he first started his new position with Troutdale, but it really didn't seem to faze him, which was surprising to me. It was a lot of work. He was willing to listen to your community about Metro East services and impact. He grasped the issues quickly and reached out with questions. He figured out how to be a lead partner with Fairview, Wood Village, and the county. He shepherded the process and documents to get this done by the end of this fiscal year. And he did all this among getting up to speed on other pressing issues in Troutdale, which I'm sure you're all very aware of. So we think it was an impressive feat. So we want to thank Mike particularly for all your work on this, and we look forward to continuing our work together in the future.
All right, thank you. Yes, please.
My name's June Vining, and most of you know me as the director of the Trauma Intervention Program, the nonprofit. But I'm here not just as somebody who runs the nonprofit, but as a citizen of Troutdale, wanting to also just underline what DA Vasquez said about staying with the sheriff's office. I've lived in Troutdale, raised my family here. We've been here over 40 years, up in the Sweetbriar neighborhood. Also have a perspective with a husband who just recently retired from law enforcement, and he was one of the people instrumental in making the change from the Troutdale Police Department to the Sheriff's Office. So not just as a citizen, but even as a spouse, seeing the difference. All the things that you can't put on paper that happen when you don't have all that backup. Greg was the responding detective at the school shooting, and of course everybody showed up because that's what they do. But what you don't see is all the hours that he was all alone doing all those reports and everything after, because all of that doesn't come with it. They show up and then they go back, and all the hours. And last week when I was here, as soon as I left, also went to the homicide that was right here offering support. We take care of our community. I would hate to see any of that change with the support we get now. The people that I've talked to, my family members, I have a lot of family members in Troutdale, I'm just voicing for all of them too, our complete desire to stay with the Sheriff's Office. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Anyone else? Yes, sir, please.
I'm Nick Steino. I live in Troutdale. I don't know if this has been brought up before, but I don't know if you guys can do anything about it or not, but on 257th, heading north, and you get down to the Troutdale food carts, everybody makes a U-turn down at 257th and Columbia Hills Highway. Then there was a lighted U-turn sign, no U-turn. That was taken down. And then I just went by there this week, and there's another no U-turn. When they were proposing the 257th remodel, or whatever they call it, I suggested putting a U-turn, or not a U-turn, but a left turn thing off of 257th going into the food carts. Because if you're coming down 257th, you gotta go downtown Troutdale and come up back around or do a U-turn. I don't know why that wasn't done eventually when that food carts were proposed. It just makes too much sense not to have it there. I'm wondering if you guys have any influence over that or not. What do you think?
The short answer is it's a county road. And
I know it's a county road.
Well, it's a county road, and the county, there's one place where left turns are allowed in the area where the median is on the hill of 257.
Yeah.
There's one place, and that's only there. The county didn't want that one either. But I still remember the guy who sold the land, or when they subdivided it, when they put in the road, he reserved to his client, to the landowner, the right to have a left turn. in there, and the county fought that, but they couldn't defeat it. That's the only reason the county didn't even want a left turn there. So they have their ideas that, somehow it's better without left turns. I don't disagree with you, that it seems pretty unreasonable, but I will say we could ask. The county,
Well, I asked, and when they sent out a survey of what you want done, but I don't have any power like you guys have.
well, they might listen to us a little more, but not much.
I just think
Anyway,
it just makes too much sense.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. It would make sense. And we can ask.
Okay, I appreciate that. I just had one more thing.
Go ahead.
Last time I was here, I talked about the water rates, and it was funny because on the news a couple nights later, they showed all these cities around town doing the same thing that you guys did. It's raise the water rates without a vote because they can. And I was looking at your budget, and you got a contingency budget of $15,776,483. And you couldn't find 1.5 million. I think Mike said that's what you're generating from this water thing. In that budget with all this contingency rates for all these departments, I find it hard to believe. I'm just complaining, I'm a complainer. So, my opinion in there.
All right, well,
Thank you for listening.
we tried.
I know.
We tried to find more money.
I know, it just bothered me when I saw that.
I understand.
It's funny that it was on the news just 2 nights later, all these, didn't say Troutdale, but it said all these Westland and all these other cities doing the same thing.
Frankly, the state hasn't left us much choice in how we could possibly pay for services that are going up every year at
I understand there.
percent, and we're allowed 3%. It's finally caught up with us.
You gotta work, you work in a budget at home, you gotta work in a budget everywhere.
I appreciate your comment.
I could just say yes, the contingency's there, but a lot of those contingency funds are very restricted because of state rules and laws that say that money can only be used for a street. That money can only be used for tourism and economic development, and there's all these little funds that prevent us from
Do you use it up every year?
the contingencies.
Yeah, on all these departments that I read?
I hope not. No, the
No,
contingencies
did you
only.
use it all up last year? No. Then what happens to that money? Couldn't that go for doing the water rates? No. Doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it just stays in it. Gets rolled over, and it's our beginning fund balance next year.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have something.
Oh, John,
Have to step
you're addressing the council during public comment. Very good.
Wow, is that allowed?
I don't know, it's a first. I don't remember
Well, I
that.
got an email from
Do state your name and the city where you live, just to be.
Troutdale. I work on the cruise in every year. And turned in all my paperwork and got an email tonight that because of changes in how sponsorship money has been handled or is being handled, it'd probably be best if I came before the council in public comment. In years past, before I got on council and before balusters and everything were installed, we came to the council and requested like $2,500 sponsorship for the event. In the last few years, once the balusters went in and we were backing up against First Friday, we would just share the workload with the city on inputting and removing the balusters and putting up the signs. So, and the last couple of years, Ray has just signed off on our percentage of the fee on that one. Okay. So I would like to put on the agenda for July 14th to consider covering the fees for installation, removal of the balusters, and the signage that day, which I'm sure is well under $1,000. So, anyway.
A request that the city consider donating
Right.
to that. All right. Well, the cruise-in is a regular activity downtown every year. You might as well give credit where, who puts it on?
The Kiwanis Club in Troutdale.
They're the ones that have been carrying the workload.
And it's a fundraiser. We spread the funds amongst area high school, other key clubs, sponsorship, and youth activities in Troutdale and sister cities.
All right, well, thank you. There would be time to put it on the agenda for the next,
July 14th,
yeah,
if you want to do that.
I think,
Okay.
unless there's some objection, let's put it on the agenda and consider it then. Anyone else care to address us during public comment? All right, well, I'll close public comment. Thank you all. And we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is yours, John. I'll just mention that the CRC, the Cable Regulatory Commission dissolution is something that I discussed with Norm Thomas, who is our longtime, Ms. Omelchek mentioned his name. He's served like 30 years for Troutdale on there. He used to be a city councilor. He had volunteered at that time to be the representative. He understood this stuff better than anyone else, I think, in town probably, and certainly on the council. And when he stepped down from the council, he continued to volunteer to do it, and we always very eagerly took him up on it. So Norm had, when we discussed it last fall, had recognized that it was time for this dissolution to take place. And that's some of these resolutions in the consent agenda, which I'll give John a chance to read, but they're the mechanics of the dissolution. But we need to acknowledge and thank Norm Thomas for many years of service on this commission. He did a great job for Troutdale. Anyway, enough said. John?
Okay, this is going to take about a half hour here. So I move that we accept consent agenda 3.1 MHRC dissolution and cable franchise transition package. Resolution A resolution of the Troutdale City Council authorizing the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement for cable franchise revenue collection, distribution, and administration between the city of Troutdale, city of Fairview, city of Wood Village, and Multnomah County. Resolution B, a resolution of the city of Troutdale City Council authorizing the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Portland and the cities of Fairview, Wood Village, and Gresham, and Multnomah County for the administration of existing cable franchise community grant and community media center grant obligations. Resolution C, a resolution of the Troutdale City Council approving the First Amendment to the Comcast Cable Services franchise agreement and authorize the city manager execute the amendment on behalf of the city. Resolution D, a resolution of the City Council authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Metro East Community Media for operational and capital support services related to public educational and governmental access programming, digital inclusion, and community media services. And 3.2, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Troutdale amending resolution number 2660 to extend the sunset date of the Public Safety Service Delivery Working Group.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Sarah, please call the roll.
Counselor Leamy,
Yes.
Counselor Andrews,
Yes.
Counselor Allen,
Yes.
Counselor One,
Yes.
Ripa,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
and Counselor Davidson.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 4.1, a resolution providing for current fiscal year 2025, 2026 budget transfers and making appropriation changes. Eric.
Mayor, good evening. Thank you. This is the customary budget transfer resolution brought to you the last council meeting of the fiscal year each year, where I try to tidy up all of the various variances and changes that have occurred since the budget was calculated and approved by the Budget Committee some 15 months ago. So as I outline in the staff report, the local budget law governs the process, and the budget transfers are provided for as an expected activity, given that there are many changes that occur over that 15-month period between the planning and here where we're getting to the end of the fiscal year. Local budget law provides for transfers of appropriations within funds, between divisions, different portions of the local budget law providing for those transfers. It's a expected and routine process that occurs, as I mentioned, each year. It's intended to address those things that have come up over the course of the year that weren't known at the time that the budget was adopted. And that's some of the repeated wording that you'll see in the resolution. It's the magic words of unknown, unexpected, and unbudgeted for actions or activities that have occurred. This year's budget transfers and resolutions are fewer than in most of the prior years, because I go back to look at prior years to make sure I'm looking for all the things that typically occur, and this is about a third shorter than last year. Some of the same activities. Typically we record for the record expenditures made for sponsorships to outside groups, as putting it clearly on the record. That's addressed in there as well. There was this year costs associated in administration related to our transition from prior city manager to our current one. Number of areas, both in the general fund and throughout other funds, where we had costs associated with temporary labor coverage, costs for folks that were out on family and medical leave status, whether due to injuries, surgeries, or a baby arriving. So the work needed to continue to occur. So those folks were out on, of course, paid status. So we had temporary labor costs to backfill those needs. As I outlined, there was also costs associated with this building's operations. If you remember last year where we were dealing with the sinkhole that occurred out in the parking lot that had to be fixed, and the investment or the money that has been spent on the HVAC system, which is working nicely this evening for the building. That's related to some of those transfers for that division. The fire protection services, I think this is the first year that I've ever had a budget transfer for that item, because it's typically a one-line budget, because it's in the past had been the 10-year IGA and the numbers were outlined. This past year, as you are well aware, there have been lots of discussion on various possible providers of fire service back a year ago, and when the Gresham had originally proposed their agreement that caused all three of the other cities to look at an alternative, that then brought Gresham back to the table. There was some back and forth, and during that time frame, a number was used in the budget that was ultimately $20,000 less than what was ultimately agreed on in the one-year extension that runs for this fiscal year and expires. And I did not notice that that had occurred earlier on when the budget had been approved, so it didn't get adjusted until now, and so that's the reason for that to change. We're not paying Gresham more than we agreed to, we're just paying them more than what we had originally put in the budget that was approved before the IGA was finalized. And then the typical expenditures associated with city events and greeter activities. All told in the general fund, still be well under budget. The street fund, we moved a $80,000 project from materials and services internally rather than paying a vendor, and hired temporary seasonal staff for the summer to conduct that project, as well as then also some FMLA costs. So there was really two different transfers in the street fund, apart from materials and services related to that pavement preservation, crack sealing and coating neighborhood street project, and then another portion from contingency related to the personnel cost changes. In both the sewer fund and the stormwater utility fund, the staff are all split between those two funds. They have overlapping duties, and their payrolls are split between the two. We had several of the operators progress through the Department of Environmental Quality Domestic Wastewater System Operator Certification Program. It's a mouthful. Anyway, that process gives them additional credentials, and as part of that process, under the collective bargaining agreement with the union, there's a job family advancements. Those job grades between operator classes is roughly a 10% shift, so that's part of the labor cost changes there, as well as some FMLA costs in both of those areas. So that's sort of the summary from what's in the staff report. As I mentioned, this is something we go through each year. And it's all of the funds, as I outlined in the staff report, all remain well under budget, even with these transfers. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to address any specific questions that the council may have.
All right. Questions?
I have several. So you answered some of them, but the question I have under general fund, when you have $7,500 for Mount Hood Jazz Festival and $15,000 for the Cascadia Art Association 2026 Summer Art Rock Festival sponsorship, and in-kind staff costs, is that all overtime costs?
It's going to be a combination. A lot of it will probably be overtime because it's taking them away from their other duties, which probably can't be not done. So, off the top of my head, but the $3,000 was what was asked for and what the council approved.
Okay. The reason why I'm kind of being nitpicky is that we're going to be going to our citizens for a levy. We raised our fee for the police from 15 to 25. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear and where the money is going.
Just to clarify, these are all expenses for the fiscal year that ends June 30, so
Right.
they aren't related to the budget that starts July 1st.
But my question is,
fees going up.
why isn't some of this stuff addressed to the council before it's spent? So like, when you talk about like the building police operations, $45,000. For the HVAC system, the system in this room does not work, it's still hot. So I'm not sure, I mean, you added the $45,000 to fix it, but it's still not fixed.
Well, the HVAC system for this building, not just this room, but the whole rest of the building has been an ongoing challenge. And as the landlord, we had a responsibility to conduct repairs. So that was the money that has been spent so far. That's not to say that there aren't additional improvements. Part of what Public Works is looking at is the end of functional life of the current system, and we're probably looking at a 250,000 plus replacement project, but that's not something that we're ready to do in the current budget pressures that we're under. So they're attempting to try and continue to eke out a little more life out of the existing system. But that large expenditure for a replacement HVAC system for this whole building is coming.
And this sinkhole, did we contract that out or did we fix it ourselves?
I believe that was a combination of, well, majority of it was contracted out based on the construction needs that were required. That's my recollection.
The other one is under the street fund. If we know that something's coming, like you've got down unanticipated and necessary additional expenses, and it came to 140,000, that was unexpected. And it seems like, through my recollections of talking about this street, that we knew there's something, that it was coming. So, but did we not put it in the budget? I thought we had done that.
If you take a look at the resolution back on, I think it's the very last page in your packet, you'll see there in the street fund, there's 80,000 that we're moving from the materials and services category, and that was the project that had originally been budgeted to be paid to an outside vendor. And so, yes, it was planned on, but we weren't planning on paying it out of that budget category. And based on the local budget law, we have to have it paid out of the correct category. Have been twice in my 18 years of budgets that have been written up where I failed to get all the transfers done, where we had a couple $1,000 expenditure in one category that we were over, and we were $1 million under budget for the whole fund. So it's a matter of trying to get them in the right categories as part of when the auditors come in and review expenditures of actual compared to the authorized budget. So yes, that neighborhood crack ceiling project was planned on and was budgeted. It was budgeted in this category. We spent it in this category, and that's what the $80,000 is. We're moving it just from one category to the other.
That's, remember when I keep saying the budget's like 300 pages long and you have to go to one page to another, and that's why it's so confusing for me. The other one is, like when you look at that page under section 4 and it talks about money coming out of contingency to personnel services, I had added that it was $235,000 more. So if you added the 140 to 40 to 55.
Oh, from across all the different funds.
Across the three funds here, the sewer fund, the street fund, and the storm sewer utility fund. That $235,000 came out of the contingency and went into personnel services. Did we, is that to cover the FMLA and?
Portions of it was the FMLA. Again, part of it was the additional temporary labor that we hired in for that streets project. 80,000 of it was related to that. And then the other part, as I tried to articulate, the job family promotions, where we had several employees who obtained the necessary related work time and sat for and passed the certification tests, so they were entitled to move up from operator 1 to 2 or a 2 to a 3, and those job grades are a 10% change in wage rate. That also contributed to the cost, because what I budgeted back in February of 2025, I didn't know who was going to pass the tests, much less some of them passed the first time, some of them have taken it once, but have been successful.
So you come to us at the end of each year and tell us what has been different. My question is there any way that we could know that earlier. Like, say, we approve this, go, okay, this is what happened last year, but this the new budget that we just approved, if we're having to take $100,000 out of contingency and put it into personnel, I, for one, as well as taxpayers, I'm assuming, would like to know why and where that's going. I'm just questioning it because my concern is money's getting tighter. We're complaining that we can't afford police, we can't afford fire, and if we're not nickeling and diming and being really careful with our money, people are going to be asking, why aren't you careful? And they're going to want to know. And so that's why I'm bringing this up, because
I understand people are going to complain regardless. Just to clarify, those three funds that you talked about in terms of the transfers have no impact on the general fund and on the public safety costs. So those transfers didn't make any difference one way or the other, the street fund, the sewer fund, or the stormwater fund. They're not part of the general fund, and so they don't compete for funds with police and fire costs. But I understand people don't care about that. They just are going to be unhappy about the increased costs. The FMLA, some of it, well, I shouldn't say some of it, much of it is, almost all of it is unexpected in that, people get injured, they have surgeries, or, the family expands. And so, apart from me trying to monitor something like that and come to the council and say, well, so-and-so's spouse over in the such and such fund is now expecting.
I understand that. So I guess maybe to help me understand it a little bit better, Eric, would be, I'm thinking this is money, right? If you're taking it from one pocket, the contingency fund of, say, $55,000, and you're moving it to another pocket, it's still money being transferred to somewhere, right? So that's $55,000. I guess maybe I'm not understanding how that works, because I'm seeing that a total of $235,000 got transferred, but it's still money. So as a taxpayer, I guess maybe a better explanation of, so that I can understand, I'm asking my community to pay $25.
And that $25 has absolutely no impact on these three
But I'm
funds.
bringing that up because now I'm gonna say, as a citizen, I'm paying you $25 a month, and you're taking $55,000, I'm just taking that number because it's just here. It could be $10, and I'm moving it. My question is, then if you have the money, why am I paying $25?
Because in that particular case, it's related to sewer ratepayers and the money that is paid for operation of the sewer fund, whereas the $25 that we're charging goes into the general fund to pay for the police and fire costs. We can't, the sewer fund, the stormwater utility fund, the water fund are all what is referred to as enterprise funds, which are based on the statutes and so forth. They're expected to run similar to a business in that the rate the rate mechanism is supposed to cover the cost. The street fund is slightly different in that it's funded by the restricted gas tax revenue, primarily from the state, but also from our local gas tax. And so in each of those cases, those funds have to be used for those purposes, but none of those purposes are police and fire, which are over here in the general fund. And that's where the $25 goes, is over here rather than into these funds. And that's a lot for somebody that, is asking you the question in the aisle at Safeway.
Right, and that's good to know, and because when I look at it, I go, there's $55,000, why can't that be used towards police, right? So I guess maybe to let our community know that there's pockets, and thank you for explaining that money is allotted to that because it's law, it's
restricted, yep.
It's restricted money, it can't go elsewhere. That stuff is good to know because That helps us understand why fees go up and fees get changed. So, thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have questions?
So Eric, this is money that's already spent, and you're asking us now to take it out of contingency. See, my understanding.
This is my estimate of what we will end the year at. Of course, I don't have even all of May's costs yet in terms from vendors, outside vendors and invoices, much less any of June. So I'm not really going to know the cost of things until sometime in August. This is always the dance I go through at year end, trying to estimate where we're going to come out.
I don't remember this big of a ask ever, you know.
Last year's was much larger.
Was it? Okay, you said that, but I'm just not remembering it. I thought we had to approve that money before it got spent out of contingency.
That's exactly what you're doing, is
It's already been spent.
You're approving the transfer from contingency to these other line items. I can't move contingency, only the council can.
So can I interject just a little bit and talk about, I just want to go over a few of these things just so we can maybe add some. I mean, as we go through this line item by line item, we have the judicial situation. That was an FMLA situation that we have no control over. We're obligated by contract and we have to get that work done. So that's a temporary hire to fill that FMLA situation. The next one was administration. That was an overlap between Ray and I on a hire. That was something that the council was directly involved with and well apprised, I imagine. Between the police operations and the building, that is the sinkhole and the HVAC, which we're contractually obligated to fix. So we really have no on that front either. And I'm pretty sure the council was aware of those situations throughout that. I mean, I recall some discussion, although I don't think I was here when it first initially got triggered.
So we spent 45 on an HVAC system that we're now gonna have to replace.
Well, we put 10,000, I think, into the HVAC and then 45 into the sinkhole, if memory serves.
45.
I can't remember the exact numbers on that, but I do remember that the HVAC, we tried to do it as cheap as possible to get it fixed. It was out for a couple months over here. And the sinkhole, I know, had something to do with the storm water draining off the roof, creating a sinkhole in the parking lot. And so they had to redo the whole underground cavity and then pavement on top.
Vault.
Yeah, they had to do the vault. What's that?
Sorry, what'd you say the amount was? 55?
Yeah, the exact number. Well, total between the HVAC and that, the HVAC and the sinkhole, we have essentially 55 right here, right? In this line item. So the 20,000 was a contract issue. I'm just going line item by line item here. So the 20,000 was just a contract undersight or oversight. We were estimating what the contract was going to be, and then it came in 20,000 higher. The one element I think that we had any control over would be the events. Windy Wonderland, First Fridays, Merry Movies, Movies in the Park, those sort of things. And that's where this was the only overage that we might have had any kind of control over if you went line item by line item on this. And in that situation, some of it was flagging, some of it was a lack of personnel, some of it was unanticipated requests for staffing to man and those events once they get kicked off and started. And events are notorious for overuse of our staff resources, and trying to keep those under budget have been, I would imagine, an ongoing strain. From my experience with events, they're always cost more than what you anticipate. So
That transfer amount is very typical of the last several years for the event piece of the puzzle.
No.
So I mean, as I look at this, I'm seeing a number of these that are kind of outside of our control, or we're contractually obligated to to do. So that there's not a lot of choice in a number of these, is all I'm saying. There wasn't a lot of choice.
You know, I look back to, like, we were promised a better lease, that could have helped, and we didn't get it. I think we're all looking harder at the budget when we're having to go outside and create a new fee. We're getting a lot of pushback. We got a lot of pushback at the last council meeting from our own budget committee as well, not wanting to do those changes. And, you know, what, I guess I'll make this short. One other question I have too, actually, one is the crack and slurry seal. Doesn't that come out of the gas tax fund?
That's the fund where the transfer is occurring, is the street fund.
Yeah, and so it is in that fund. I think what you see right here is the difference, because I think it was probably under a different bucket, like capital plans or contracts or something like that. And then we ended up doing it with our temporary part-time workers instead. And so we're basically, like what Eric said, moving it from that fund over to that. So it's not really, it was budgeted just in the wrong category.
And then the other one is the event money, the 15,000 for the art festival and the 7,500 for the Mount Hood Jazz Festival. Now, I thought we had a fund established for events for community importance. Did we just overspend?
No, those are, there's money, has been money in the past in the budget for sponsorship events. What I have done every year in this budget resolution is to outline what the transfers were that the council made, because it's not a staff. We don't get to decide which events we like this organization, we don't like that. So this is basically recording on the record the motions that council had already made earlier in the year when Mount Hood came and asked, there was a motion made and the council approved an amount. And later when the
Art Festival.
Thank you. Made the same. There was also a council motion that was made. This is the essentially follow up the budget documentation to record that previous authorization on the part of the council. So that's all this is doing. We're not spending it a second time. We're just.
But it's not coming out of a special fund that was set aside for community important events.
It's coming out of the general fund.
Yeah, that's where I'm confused.
Oh, we do have a fund. I think there's like 20,000 in there. For events. So
It's not in contingency, it's an actual.
There's an appropriation category that is generic in terms of sponsorships, not specifying what organizations. It's just a category in the general fund. All this is doing is outlining what we spent that on.
Any questions?
I just have one. On page 3, Eric, it says contingency minus 174,500. Is that part of the, what's on page 4?
No, that is, if you look above that number, all the numbers above that are positives. So that's the amount that's coming out of contingency to populate each of those. You know, if you go up the top, there's 25,000, 37, 10, 45. That's the money that's coming out of that line and going on to those lines that are up above.
Okay.
And I'll probably just mention this just so there's probably a bunch of line items throughout the budget that didn't get fully expended. So at the end, there'll be an audit, well, we'll do the audit, and then those funds will be final ending balance, and that will be the true balance once it's audited. And you'll find that overall, we probably underspent for each and every fund. But pointing out the contingency and putting it in each fund line item, make sure that we're covered when it comes time for the audit. So we probably still underspent is what I'm saying in each and every fund.
So then when you figure everything out, like in August, when everything finally comes in, or August, will you then come back and say, this is exactly what we spent?
That'll be part of the audit that I bring to the council for adoption. You got it?
I'm just excited about the audit now.
Okay, well, you know, it's another one of those annual events that I plug onto the calendar and bring to you guys, you know, it's,
When it happens, so this is,
it will be on the council, agenda, the first council meeting of January. It's due to the Secretary of State's office by December 31st, and it's typically finalized with the auditors just before Christmas, and get it submitted and put it in a packet and bring it to the council, and then the following week, I do it again with you for the URA, along with the URA financial impact report that's also required. So another one for you to be excited about.
Any other questions? All right, well, we are going to be voting on a resolution providing for current fiscal year 2025, 2026 budget transfers and appropriation changes. And I will invite public comment, not really required at this time, but as always, I'll invite public comment before we vote. We're going to be voting. So I'll start with Zoom. Anyone on Zoom wish to address the council on this matter?
Mayor Ripma, Paul Wilcox, Troutdale.
Go ahead, Paul.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. Got a couple. Let's start with the less complicated one. On section 9 of the resolution, it reads, upon adoption, this resolution shall be effective as July 1, 2025. I thought that was the date of 2025 was a misprint at first, but then I looked at a year or two back and it seems like that's standard procedure. So I just question why that's retroactive backdated.
I assume that's correct.
This is, because the budget that we're modifying began July 1st, 2025, and ends here in a little more than a week. And so this is to adjust the budget for the whole year, which is why it's effective back to last July 1st.
All right, what else, Paul?
Okay, the other thing is, it sounded like a couple of the counselors were as confused as I am about this one. I'll go ahead and read a little bit. Under General Fund, budget transfers from contingency to Tourism and Economic Development Division to provide for the unanticipated additional expenses associated with the recent council action for the 7,500 sponsorship of the Mount Hood Jazz Festival and 15,000 Cascadia Arts Association 2026 Summer Art Walk Festival sponsorship and in-kind staff costs. As a counselor or two have mentioned, there is a line item on page 111 of the current budget under GL stands for General Ledger, I assume, General Ledger account number 8230, community events, city-sponsored events, $21,000. And it even has, as an example of a city-sponsored event, in parentheses, it shows art festival and cruise in, etc. So my question is, you got money in the budget in that line item, so why are you pulling money out of contingency to cover that? If you're going to use contingency to pay for event sponsorships, why even have a line item in the budget?
The line item in the budget is managed by the staff that operate that Tourism and Economic Development Division, and once the budget is approved, they have that appropriation available to them. They're not making the decision to spend it on Mount Hood Jazz Festival or Art Fest. The council made that decision. So if staff has spent that money already on events and community tourism promotion, and then council comes along and spends it again by giving $7,500 to Mount Hood, all of a sudden the staff, the money that they had spent or had planned to spend is gone. And that's a council decision. Again, that's why it's recorded here and we're representing the decisions that the council made.
Okay, so if you're paying,
So this is what we've done year in and year out. Every year we do this to reflect the council decisions.
if you're covering that with contingency, then essentially the $21,000 line item never gets spent.
Or it gets spent on community events and tourism promotion activities that are not Mount Hood Jazz Festival or the Art Fest.
Well, then you'd be spending it on a classification that's not part of that line item.
I don't know how else to explain it to you.
Okay. I asked a similar question last year and it's still confusing. Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you, Paul. Anyone else online? Shelby Stephenson.
Yeah, I'm like Paul. I was trying to understand that. So it sounds to me like in the budget, if there's a line item, then the staff is able to spend that. It's if council decides to spend something on a community event, then they approved it, so then it's out of contingency. So contingency that's why you have contingency, is anything extra and above that goes beyond budget, you then spend out of it and you basically increase the budget so you can say contingencies back to the same as it was at the beginning. Is that correct?
Most all of that is correct, yes, in that the appropriations, once the budget is approved, that is the deliberation of the budget committee and then ultimately the council to authorize staff to implement the programs across all the different funds that were brought to it. And so then staff is authorized, not obligated, but authorized to make expenditures of appropriations. The additional expenditures that council decided to make, that's a transfer from contingency to recognize that as you put to it, an additional or an above beyond. Staff cannot spend contingency, only council can. And the only way contingency is accessed is by bringing a resolution to the city council like we're doing here. Usually it's once a year at this meeting. About every 3 years, it's twice, and because I usually end up bringing one in October, November when we have a new union contract, because we usually go into the contract without knowing what the increase is, and once the contract gets finalized, then I come and say, okay, the contract you approved last meeting now has this COLA in it that wasn't built into the budget because it hadn't been finalized yet, and council approves a budget transfer from contingency at that point for those additional expenditures that weren't anticipated when the budget was approved. But again, staff can't spend that, only council can approve that.
Okay. So if you have, I don't know, like the police contract or something, or something came up during the year, would you come to council that was beyond what was planned for in the budget? Would you come to council for that expenditure? Or would you, would you come to get their approval, or would you, because you can't spend contingencies, so you would have to get their approval, right?
Have to get council's approval. This is the formal process of documenting it. As mentioned before, in the case of like Mount Hood and so forth, that was a council decision that was made in a previous council meeting. So council had authorized that expenditure. This is to fix the budget documentation to support that authorization that was already issued. There are events that occur throughout the year that council is involved with that will have budgetary impacts. Typically, when I write resolutions, there's a catch-all near the end of each of the resolutions, which talks about that the finance director is directed to take all necessary actions to ensure budgetary compliance. That's what's part of what trying to document, that we're taking action that's approved by council, not independent of council. So the nature of the expenditure is going to depend. If council approves a change in an IGA that has an increased cost, I'm going to have that phrase in there, and I'm likely going to then bring it as part of a larger set of budget adjustments at a separate point. If it's if it's a big item like it was when we purchased 921 Buxton, I brought that all by itself to council because it was $1.1 million.
Okay. So that sounds like if, I mean, this is far out, but if the Parks Department had a vehicle that died and suddenly now, and that was unplanned, it got in an accident and it's totaled and insurance only covers so much and you're going to be beyond your budget, it would come to council. That's out of the general fund, and they would approve it. And then at the end of the year, you might make the adjustment out of contingency. You would have the authorization to spend it, to purchase, but then you might do the entry. It would be one of the things you'd come with at the end of the year that we spent out of contingency.
That certainly is a realistic scenario.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else online wishes to address the council on this matter? Okay, how about here in the room? We are considering a resolution making budget transfers. Is there anyone in the room that wishes to address the council on this matter? Okay. The matter is before us.
I'll make a motion that we accept a resolution providing for current fiscal year 2025, 2026 budget transfers and making appropriation changes.
I'll second it.
All right, Sarah, please call the roll.
Counselor Leeming,
Yes.
Counselor Andrews,
Yes.
Counselor Allen,
Yes.
Counselor One,
Yes.
Mayor Redmond,
Yes?
Counselor White,
No.
Counselor Davidson.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor? All right, thank you. I don't know if you want to say anything about your no.
My no is, every time I was approving money for an event, I thought it was coming out of the $21,000 fund. I didn't know that that money was being spent by our tourism department, so. I think we need some, I know vote is, I think, to draw attention to the fact that we need to be clear. I'd like to be asked, like we were on the $1.1 million, we were asked before that money got spent. We weren't asked on a lot of this money that got spent. And, I mean, we just had budget 2 months ago too. It would have been nice to hear some of this before we approved the last budget. That's the reason for my no vote. It's time, it's to the point where we gotta be more careful.
Well, that's certainly. We'll move on to staff communications.
Busy week. I am going to be gone for the next 2 weeks. So during that time frame, I will probably have Eric be the point person for the office there. Hopefully we'll prepare and be ready for the next council meeting, which is looking like a pretty full agenda for July 14th. At that, hopefully we will have, I plan to talk with the mayor and prepare stuff on some direction for the next fiscal year in regard to police matters. So see which way we want to go with that. We also have a break with the East County Fire Task Force between I think July and like end of August perhaps. So I won't really have much of an update on on that for the next couple months until we get something from Clackamas 1 potentially. I think I've already kind of covered with you in the work session on where a lot of those sit currently and what we're kind of waiting for on that front. I appreciate Julie coming in today and chatting about all the work that went into the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission and dissolution and then moving all those in over here. It was a bit of a monumental effort by all parties involved, so hats off to all the staffers at Portland, Gresham, Wood Village, Fairview, and everyone in between, and Julie and her staff for helping on all those other pieces, so that was pretty good. Hats off to everyone for surviving budget season, so thank you all very much, and I look forward to our next meeting in July.
All right. We'll move on to council communications. I guess we'll start with you, John.
A couple things. So, how much are we getting back on the from the dissolution?
So I think we'll see a difference of approximately $27,000.
So I would like us to think about earmarking about $4,000 of that $27,000 to bring back Mary Movie Night in December. This is kind of a windfall for us, and maybe earmark that before we go spending it on something else. And the second thing that I'd like to ask is that everyone think seriously. This is quite a heavy thing that we've been going through with the police department, and just think seriously about accepting their proposal. That's it.
All right, thank you. John, good idea about we could fund the Merry Movie Night, which got canceled and is a very worthy cause. I'd love to do it if we can figure out some way to do it.
Just want to say, if you do that, you're going to have another budget. so you can go ahead and do it, but yeah, it's going to, because
it wasn't budgeted.
right.
Taken out of the budget.
So you would just do what we just talked about at the end of the year. Again, we would do an appropriation.
So we do have a source of funds.
Yeah, it would just be
It's Mount Hood Cable Regulatory money.
right. It's just moving money from one fund to another. Like, we didn't overspend when you look at the funds as a whole, but one fund got overspent, but others are not spent. So at the end of the day, we didn't spend as much money as allocated. So.
All right, understood. Zach?
Yeah, we had a really productive work session last week, so I was glad to see a lot of that discussion take place. And I don't think this is necessarily an easy time for us to be talking about a lot of these issues, but I feel like, work pretty well together. And I'd be interested to hear more about what John's thoughts are on that at another time, considering we're kind of in the throes of those conversations. But yeah, I appreciate everybody. That's all I have for today. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Zach. Carol?
I have a couple things here. I just wanted to follow up on, I'm going to say, Linda's tree issue. She was the gal that came and addressed the council about the tree issue on Troutdale Road. I thought I'd just follow up and see.
So, as I understand it, the tree is a free permit through our Parks and Facilities Department. She can come get that permit from Jonah. It's free, and she can remove the tree. As for the sidewalk, that is a right-of-way permit from Multnomah County. So we don't really have anything to do with that aspect, but she would need to go get that right-of-way permit from Multnomah County to do the work. And I don't know what the cost of that permit is, but I heard through rumor or hearsay that it was about $300. I think that's where she had mentioned the $300.
And,
Although that, it just, that would be the permit, that wouldn't fix the sidewalk. And the tree permit wouldn't take out the tree. Right. It'd just be a permission permit to take it down. The cost, I also looked at the ordinance, the way it's written, the way all cities do it. Frankly, any abutting property owner is responsible for maintaining the sidewalk, even if it's on the other, it's, in this case, it would be county right of way for Troutdale Road. It's aggravating, but there isn't really a.
So she's really getting a double, I told Mike that she's getting a double hit because she got the street in the neighborhood, plus she's got Troutdale Road.
Well, anybody that borders two streets is, it does get a double hit. That,
Yeah.
I mean, you could also, yes, that is an asset to some houses. It's a liability when things like this happen. There's just no question about it. And I don't know. I'm able to figure out a way around that.
Downside of cul-de-sacs right there, right?
Because I had the greatest sympathy for her position, and anyway.
and
Sorry,
you know,
Carol.
she's really not the only one, because if you take a walk down Troutdale Road to almost your house, there are several spots on the sidewalks that need to be repaired. I mean, they just are. I mean, she's not the only one.
Well, south of Stark, that area has the homeowners association of Sweetbriar maintains those. But in other areas, I mean, it is, it's.
I had a citizen approach me talking about Marine View Drive. There is no speed limit sign down there that says, is it 55, is it 25, is it 35? And I've driven that so many times, and I don't think I've ever seen one. So if you come like from the Gresham area, right? You're going on Marine View Drive coming to Troutdale, there is no speed sign. So what is the speed? And because they said that there was a police officer's car there and they were worried about being pulled over, was not pulled over, but they had no idea what the speed was.
Marine
Marine View
Drive.
Drive. You know, like when you go out to like FedEx and you're going past Amazon.
Marine
Drive, sorry.
You said Marine View and
Sorry, Marine Drive. There is no stops, there is no speed limit, so nobody knows what the speed limit is. And if I looked on my GPS, it was like 45, 55, and I'm like, I don't know if I'd ever do 55 down that road. So I'm a little, just thought I'd bring it up. So I don't know how we find out.
farther down is 40.
There was a sign
It
that
used to be.
that was going west. But I've noticed lately there's.
Yeah, there did used to be a 55, I do remember that.
Yeah, so that, I thought I'd just address it. I don't know who to address it to,
Is it
but
considered a highway? Marine Drive?
Some people treat it like a highway, I don't know.
I think highway is 55 if it's,
There used to be a sign there, it was 55, all the way until you got to Fairview, so just past the recycling place. But there's not one there anymore, and I've, for some reason, when you said that, I just like, in the back of my mind, noticed it a few months ago. I was like, hey, it's not there, so.
I'm trying to remember back to my driver's manual days where it's like, if it's not demarcated and you're on this type of road, it's 55, and if you're on this type, it's 45, and this type 35.
75?
Yeah. No speed limit, Montana.
Right, yeah.
and that might be a Multnomah County thing, but, you know, I thought, well, that is a really good question. And the last one was, I just want to encourage counselors to really watch the PSWAG meetings because there's a lot of information that goes on. I know the chief came and talked in detail on things that she didn't talk about really at work session, and so there's a lot of information there that everybody can glean on that wasn't at the PSWAG meeting. And that's it for me.
Great.
I just wanted to hit on the food carts being inaccessible and the U-turn situation. I empathize with that and agree. I don't know if there's what we can do, but I would imagine that since it is a county road, the county has their own meetings that you could go to and complain. I'd support you doing that, because I agree. And the U-turn's been up, down, so
Why was that?
I don't know. Really
One was
good,
lit, now they're.
super good questions. So, something we can look into. I just wanted to ask when we're gonna discuss the levy and the police in council.
July 14th. So part of the conversation I was mentioning in the update was going over with the mayor on how we want to present this on July 14th. My initial thought on this is that I bring forward a resolution, two resolutions essentially. One saying that we go forward with the revised amendment with Multnomah County Sheriffs, and the other being we start the Troutdale Police and allow you to choose which one you want to do.
I just wanted to know, and are we gonna talk about the levy the same day?
Yeah, because we need to know, well, I don't think it really matters whether we do the Troutdale Police or the Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, it's kind of separate.
I think we plan for the worst case scenario, which I think is the $1.60 per thousand levy.
Okay.
And then if we go with a different option or we have a modification somewhere down the line, that money is still going to go to public safety because public safety budget far and away exceeds whatever revenue we could potentially generate from a $1.60 revenue or $1.60 per thousand.
I just wanted to know when it was coming, so that's perfect. And then my last thing, I just wanted to make a comment on public comment. We state like what public comment is in the beginning, and that we're not supposed to, respond to them right away. We offer comment on every motion and resolution that we do. I just feel like we've gotten a little bit away from comment versus we're letting everybody ask questions, which is the job of the council, and it kind of goes down this rabbit hole. Where we've asked questions, and we can get feedback from people on public comment, but I'd like to just say it out loud that I think it needs to be comment, not questions. And then if we would like to ask extra questions from the comment that's something that sparked in our brains, we can do that to who's ever presenting, because I feel like it puts the person that's presenting kind of on the spot to answer the question that's not really, in my opinion, of what my time here has been. It's not for them to answer questions from every single person, it's to answer from us and for us to direct where we want that conversation to go. So I just wanted to bring it up. It's just something I've noticed of late. And so I just appreciate the opportunity to say that. That's it.
I'll explain a little bit. Probably the public comment is supposed to be just comment, not questions of whoever presented. I am notoriously flexible about that. It depends. I don't want to get off on have it become a hearing of some kind, but I favor public comment. I think the people of Troutdale want the chance to make public comment, and I get your point, Jeffrey, that sometimes a question is asked during public comment, and the proper response would be that we don't answer the question. We save it for a counselor to ask it, but sometimes I call them as I see them, but I'll take that in mind.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll take that in mind. Not saying I'm not going to do it, but maybe we can shorten it up a little bit. We did receive a thank you from from Mount Hood Community College Foundation. It's like a certificate suitable for framing. It's in a nice diploma thing, recognizing the city of Troutdale at the Timberline level for contribution to the Mount Hood Community College Foundation. And a short note, many thanks to the city of Troutdale for your generous support of the Mount Hood Community College. We appreciate you. Just want to acknowledge that we received that. That's very nice. That's all I have for now.
Glenn, did you want to talk about the Summerfest? You were there.
Oh, well, yes, I could. I'm assuming everyone went to that, but yes. Last Saturday, the city formally dedicated the Sharon Nesbitt Heritage Trail, which runs along the Sandy River from the depot north to the freeway, essentially. Beautiful, beautiful walking trail. There was a great turnout. It was Summerfest. And days gone by, we used to actually have a full-scale parade. And for various reasons, we don't anymore. But we did have a very nice little parade. It started at Mayor's Square. There were drums, and llamas joined the parade. And kids and families and everybody walked down historic Columbia River Highway to the depot, and then under the tracks out to where we dedicated the trail. Sharon Nesbitt was there. There were games for the kids and free coffee drinks for everybody, and it was a beautiful day. So thanks to the citizens of Troutdale for a really great show, and thanks to city staff for putting it on for us. Thanks, Glenn. I'm glad you mentioned it.
I didn't want to steal your thunder.
They
did a great job, as usual, as our ambassador.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Good to see Sharon. I think she really liked the llamas.
They were great.
Yeah, and just a comment on public comment. I think most people come in because they do have a question, and I liked how you explained it, Dave, so that's all I'm going to say on that. And then I wanted to echo Julie. How do you say her name? Malchuk?
Yeah.
Okay. Her comments and Dave's as well on Norm Thomas for doing that job. He really made our job easy on all the cable regulatory stuff, and we had a high level of trust with Norm being involved in it. So he deserves our thanks for doing 30 years of that work, maybe even a placard or something. Anyway, so yeah, Norm, that's for you. And I appreciate the DA's office coming in and offering to meet with us individually. I think that's the first time they've ever been in council chambers. And Dave, you might know better than me.
Well, I have met with him a couple times, and he comes and meets with the mayors when we get together. And he's a very, very dedicated public servant and a good DA for Multnomah County. He's doing a great service.
Far better than his predecessor.
And I didn't want to get into that. I mean, I commend the work he's doing for us. And, thank you.
And since we have June in the audience, I want to thank June for her work with TIP. I try to go every year. It's a real touching and a great fundraiser. All the sheriff and other police agencies are there. So we buy a table every year, so 10 of us are allowed to go. Sometimes we have trouble filling those seats. Just a little shout out for that. And then, what else? And I noticed on our schedule, we're going to have the urban forest, the first read on July 14th. That one, I sat in on that meeting for the presentation for the Planning Commission. And Erica said she was gonna wait till the summer break was over to not have that big 6-week gap after the first read. So I don't know what got changed, but I thought that was a better idea to do them back to back than have the first read and then wait 6 weeks and then do the second read. So if you guys want to take a second look at that, I think that's a much better idea.
Especially if we've got a heavy agenda that day.
Yeah, move that, my recommendation. And We talked a little bit of last meeting about what's going on at Glen Auto Park, and I had questions about the security guy, and you said they do patrol in there, but I mean, it's just people, openly intoxicated and openly drinking, and the smell of marijuana down there will knock you over. So if there's anything we can do about that with our security guy. We're trying to keep it family friendly, and it's not family friendly at all, regressing backwards. That's all I have.
I had a little run-in with our security on Saturday. We had an event there. We paid for 20 parking spots, and they took 2 of the parking spots. And I said, opens up his trunk, starts to eat lunch. I said, you gonna be here for a while? And he said, well, yeah, I work here. And I said, well, we pay for this. And he said, well, this is where I park. I said, well, I guess I'll have to talk to Karen. So he went over to talk to Karen. She made him move. But I thought, if I'm paying for 20, I should get 20. I shouldn't have 2 of them taken up by security. One other thing I wanted to say, I don't know how many of you remember Zane Sparling that used to represent
Very well.
Outlook. He passed away on Saturday.
Oh,
on
man,
Sunday.
yes, he was only 33.
Like a cancer that the outside of your blood vessels, it's like 1 in a million. And 33.
Move we adjourn.
Wait, Jesse.
I'm sorry.
Jesse.
Yeah,
My apologies.
no worries. Nothing to add from me. I second the adjournment.
There you go.
All right, I guess it's moved and seconded. We adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.